V ZDA delujejo 3 univerze, ki so dostopne tudi študentom z okvaro sluha. Nastale so kot odgovor na Zakon o enakih možnostih, enaki dostopnosti. Tega so ZDA sprejele v zgodnjih 80. letih. Odtlej morajo imeti tudi gluhi in naglušni študentje enak dostop do istih izkušenj in istih informacij, ki so jim izpostavljeni vsakdanji Američani. V to inkluzijo sodi zapisnikar na predavanjih. Dostopnost znakovnega jezika prek tolmačev pomeni priznanje programov učenja govora na daljavo. Pogovarjali smo se z Eugenom Lylackom, profesorjem angleščine na Nacionalnem tehničnem inštitutu za gluhe, National Technical Institute for the Deaf, ki je bil ustanovljen leta 1968 v ZDA. Danes tam študira okrog 1200 gluhih in naglušnih, izberejo lahko različne smeri študija, od inženirskih do tehnoloških. Sicer sta gluhim in naglušnim študentom dostopni še 2 univerzi, in sicer Univerza Gallaudet, ta je bila ustanovljena že v 19. stoletju, nahaja se v Washingtonu. Nudi programe svobodne umetnosti, likovne umetnosti in drugih. CS Sun univerza pa se nahaja v Kaliforniji. Na katerikoli od omenjenih 3 univerz lahko študirajo tudi Slovenci, ker so šolnine precej visoke, so jim na voljo štipendije javnega štipendijskega sklada, kamor morajo oddati vlogo.
We have centers of deafness around the country, but they are not as big as NTID, the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. Our program is in Rochester, New York. It's in upstate New York, close to the Canadian border on Lake Ontario. Very similar to Slovenia, beautiful green grass, trees. And so our college campus is almost, the new campus is almost 50 years old. And we have a dedicated building at NTID for deaf students who want to become graduates of RIT. We have 1,200 students roughly. Back in the early 80s, late 80s, the United States government passed a law on equal opportunity, equal access. So since that time now, students, deaf students especially, are required by law to have equal access to the same experiences, the same information that everyday Americans are exposed to. So with that law in place now, we have a number of opportunities that deaf students can participate in programs fully. Part of this inclusion means note-taking for classrooms, means sign language accessibility for interpreters, means speech recognition programs for distance learning. All these programs, these options are now available for our students, and honestly, people take advantage of them. They use these every day. It helps our students have equal access to the same information that their college peers will also have. So like hearing people, they have the same kinds of access to the information. We accept students from all over the country, and so there are national examinations in the US for students who graduate from high school and they go to university. Our school, in addition to these tests, we also have an idea of how much did they learn when they were in high school. What's their communication style? What do they prefer? Do they prefer talking? Do they prefer signing? So these kinds of tests show us what level these students are capable of their work. So we have tests in English, we have tests in background, what they call a background questionnaire. What kind of family did you come from? Are your parents hearing? Are your parents deaf? How much English do you know? We have a reading test that we give students. And so when our students enter, we have an idea of where they fit on the scale. How much time do they need to prepare to be ready for a college education? So those 3 are critical for us.
Established by an act of Congress and signed into law by President Lyndon Baines Johnson, the National Technical Institute for the Deaf is the world's first and largest technological college for deaf and hard of hearing students. With the first class of 70 students entering in 1968, founding director D. Robert Frizina assembled a faculty and staff who were eager to join what Frizina called the grand experiment.
So of course, the most important one in my experience is English. If you can't understand the language, then the information is not accessible to you. So students who enter and they are not proficient at English, we have a program to help them become equal with their college entry peers. Usually the program lasts a year or 2 years, depending on how fast the student can improve. Some students improve very quickly, some students do not. But still, these tests help us see what our best curriculum, what's the best program we can offer. Students come in, and for 3 weeks in the summertime, they go to different classes in their majors. So if a student wants to major in computer-assisted drafting or design, graphic design, they go to classes and they see what do people teach there? How do they learn? What are the requirements? And then at the end of the program, they make a decision. Do I want to do this, or would I like to try something else? So those tests help us find out which students can do which programs. My experience has been generally, demographically, most deaf children have hearing parents. 90% probably more than 90% have mother and father who are hearing. So they are isolated from babies. They are not communicating with their parents because they can't hear what their parents are saying. So they can make this connection. It's very important for students or for children to learn. We know that language opportunity happens for children between the ages of birth and 2 years. Okay, I will use English signs and voice at the same time. We'll call SimCom. I'm not skilled, but most students can understand my sign when we talk in class. I have many students who talk and they can't sign. So they take advantage of me and they can hear and kind of figure out what I'm saying. At the same time, deaf students are a little bit upset because they want me to turn off my voice and just sign with no voice and use ASL. So in class, my focus now is on improving vocabulary. So many students who enter our college programs do not have strong vocabulary. They use the same words most of the time. They don't understand all the complex, higher level college or university writing from their classes. So my focus has been on improving vocabulary as fast as possible. I have been developing a computer-assisted program to help students learn new vocabulary words and practice online. So students use what we call now a mobile application. They just pick up their phone, they can type in and join the class and practice vocabulary for any class. So if you are teaching a reading about some science topic, and you know that many of the words are not familiar, you can create your own list, and then the program, the computer practice program, will help the students study those words. It's teacher-based. So any teacher, any class, any words go into the program, and then there are what we call parameters. And so there are 6 parameters, 6 parts that the teacher types in, and then the program automatically creates a new practice based on that student's ability. Recently, we won a grant from the government to create a program, a joint partnership program with the University of Rochester and the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. So our goal is to create more deaf science professionals. So we offer a program, a joint program, to create a PhD degree for deaf students who are in different scientific fields. medicine, physics, chemistry, these kinds of mathematics, these kinds of what we call the hard sciences. So this program has been in place almost 2 years now. We have about five students, maybe 10 students now, who are entering the program. And the goal is eventually is to have a very high level, skilled set of deaf people who have doctoral degrees in the sciences that can go out into the country, into different countries, and create new research based on their experience as a deaf person and apply that to those programs. So it's a good exposure for us, and it's also a very good exposure for deaf people. Well, because, you know, this is a very complicated area. The sciences now more and more begin to rely on changes in our society. So if we have more educated people, people at a higher level of education, who are able to apply their deaf cultural perspective to these programs, this will benefit, I believe, not only the deaf people, but also people in general. It's a society. I think it's a good thing. Well, you know, NTID by law, we more or less are limited to accepting 10% of our total population will be foreign students. Right now we have maybe 100, 120 foreign students in our different programs, not just NTID, but throughout our IT. So students from different countries, I can speak, last year I had 2 students from Nigeria and 1 student from Sweden in my class. We also have students from Vietnam. Most of those students, though, have come with their parents to the United States. And then their parents have taken citizenship or have a green card, and they're permitted to live in the US. Those students are accepted as American students into our programs, even though their parents may be from Vietnam or from China or from Sweden, wherever. These students themselves are part of the American society. So the states support those students. They provide money and funding, and we have a special tuition rate for those students because they are in the country. For students who are outside the country, completely outside the country, most of our support comes from the governments of those countries. And it's a very small number. We have maybe 5, 10 students probably who are supported only by their governments, Japan, China, for example. And I believe the other kinds of foreign students that come into our programs apply directly themselves because they heard about NTID or they wanted to have a special kind of program in science or business, whatever. They come on their own money. But it's expensive. It's a private university. The fees for tuition are more than $50,000 a year. And then you have to pay for your books, your housing, your clothing. So it's a big expense. What we do have throughout RIT, we have a very big student foreign population from India, especially from Japan, especially from the African republics. So those students, they are supported through the RIT programs as international students. And we have a department that deals with international students who are deaf or not deaf. So they are already assimilated in those programs. Accommodations at the school are very, very wide-ranging. We have note takers who come to the classes with the students and take notes from the professor, and then they publish the notes. Each student asks for this service. It's a note-taking service. And then those notes are shared online electronically with the students for every class. The other accommodation that we also have captioning. Students come in and they request a live captioning for a course. A class will come in, a student will be taking psychology, and the professor will be teaching the psychology class for everyone, hearing students and deaf. And his notes, his speech is put onto a television screen, and every word that the professor says is written on that screen. This open captioning system that we have for our students. In addition to that, we have interpreting services, so students can request an ASL interpreter, a sign language interpreter, to come to the class with the student and the teacher and interpret by using sign language and while the class is going on. An additional interesting accommodation for me, 2 years ago, I had a student who was visually impaired also. And so visual impairment creates a different type of problem. But we have a solution. We have interpreters who will do dactylological kinds of interpreting for visually impaired students. We also have special televisions in the classrooms for low vision screening. And students can request that accommodation. We come in with a large screen set that has captions already on it, and it goes live with the teacher. You can see yourself on the screen, you can see the students. So there are a whole range of accommodations. Additionally, there are electronic accommodations, computer accommodations, high-tech, where courses are posted online. All the classwork, the tests, the lecture notes, the PowerPoints, everything is all in a program, and the student can access that directly, either through the smartphone technology or through a computer technology, iPad, laptop, whatever they want to use, we have that accommodation. So students know this. I mean, people talk to each other and they know that we have a very high-tech institute and that we have accommodations for the deaf that can help them become successful in their future careers. My department now has a very large contingent of deaf teachers. Of the 6 to 8 faculty members who are tenured or on tenure track, 5 of them are deaf. I'm the only hearing teacher in English in my department now. Everyone else is deaf. They've graduated from our programs or from different programs. At NTID, we offer a Master's of Secondary Education. So students, when they finish a degree, they can study for an additional 2 years and become a teacher of the deaf. And we have certification through the states in our own programs. So a number of our teachers now are also from that program. Myself, I began sign language as a professor when I started many years ago, almost 40 years now. I learned sign language by taking part of the NEST program, N-E-S-T, New Staff Training. And so our procedure was for 12 weeks, you have sign language every day for 3 hours, 2 hours of finger spelling, and 2 hours of deaf culture, and every day, 5 days a week. And when I was young, I lived on campus. I had an apartment, my wife and I, we had an apartment on campus, and so after class I would go to the social hour with students, sit down in the cellar, have some food, have some conversation, and I would practice sign language that way. Additionally, at NTID, we have a program to evaluate sign language skills for hearing people and for deaf people. So our program requires that hearing people practice their signs and come to a level before they can get promotion or tenure. The same is true for deaf people. They have to show that they are fluent at English, that they can communicate with people who are not deaf. So we have this kind of balance in school. And for myself, though, now after so many years of teaching the deaf, I just practice every day in class, and I take courses. Well, the NTID programs, as RIT, we have a co-op program, a cooperative education program. So this is required of all students, deaf and hearing. So students study whatever course of study they want, business, computers, science, whatever, art, sculpture, anything. They are required to work at a business, a professional business, for at least 2 semesters, 1 or 2 semesters. And so they go, and the school helps them find jobs where they want to work, can be anywhere in the country. And then the students go there and they work in their program. And so let's say the student is studying computer-assisted drafting. So they will go to a company, maybe in Cincinnati, and they will take the job. The business people who are running the company, they come to us because they want to have students who have a diverse background. So we want to have people to help people who are disabled, who have different types of abilities, to be able to work in a regular situation. So a lot of businesses come to our school and say, look, I need someone who is a good chemist or a good laboratory technician. Who do you have that would be willing to come to Cincinnati, Ohio to work? My company is in Cincinnati. So we find students who are from that area. Maybe they want to live there, maybe their families are from there. They are in the same program, and so we make a match with them. They go and they work there, and usually the business people see, oh, this is a good worker, he comes on time, he does his work, he's friendly, able to communicate. Most of the time, those businesses offer a job to the students when they finish school. We place a very high, 95% of our students are placed in jobs immediately after they finish from this co-op program. And so this is a very, very useful thing, not only for us, but also for the students. As far as communication is concerned, many of the businesses that I've visited, they use whatever necessary. Many businesses don't have anyone who is deaf in the business. And so the deaf person becomes a representative for all deaf people in that business. And so it's important, we try to teach our students that, look, you are representing all deaf people. When you go out into the business, people don't know anything about deaf people, they learn from you. Many of our students, they teach sign language, they teach them A, B, C, D, finger spelling practice, or they will write little notes. Now with cell phones, people just use an app. We have different apps that students can take advantage of and communicate with directly with their partners or their co-workers. And then for formal meetings, we also have, it's really interesting now, we have video conferencing. And so with video conferencing, you have the picture of the whole room. Everyone is sitting or talking, and people who can sign, people who can interpret, people who want to write can write. You can put it up on the screen. Everyone has access to the same information. And so businesses find a way to communicate successfully in their programs. So it's a very useful, the technology now is much better. Before, there's the old, pencil and paper and you would show it. Now we have many other avenues that are available for our students. So it's a good thing for our businesses and it's a good thing for our students. There are deaf people everywhere, every country in Europe, East Europe, China. So this is a big community, small, relatively speaking, for the whole population of the world, but still a very big community that is in need of access, equal opportunity for all their children and all their families. So